What is happening, guys? My name is Adam, I am a Super Swan, and welcome to an FM18 experiment involving PSG and their quest to conquer the top European leagues. In today's experiment, we have put PSG in the German First Division, otherwise known as the Bundesliga. As you can see, in the game it's called German First Division. So we're going to see if they can conquer Bayern Munich's strengthhold. Strengthhold? That's not a word. Their dominance of German football. So as the previous experiment, so if you haven't seen this before, we did do an experiment very similar to this involving the English Premier Division. So I'm going to put a link below for that experiment, and I might put something in the corner there. There. Up there, somewhere. If you want to go back and watch how PSG got on in the English Premier Division. So, as the experiment goes, the story that we're going to be telling here is that the PSG owners had enough of dominating French football. The critics have come out stating that PSG are a one-league team or a one-team league. They can only win the French league because there's no one else to challenge them. So they've bought themselves places in different European leagues. So in this particular experiment, they have bought a place in the German First Division. So what we're going to do, we're going to go forward 1 season, 2 seasons, then 3 seasons to see how they get on, see if they can win the league, see if they can win the German Cup, and ultimately answer the question, can PSG win in Germany? So there's the league table, and as always, unfortunately, there does have to be a team where PSG have bought the rights to, and that team is Hanover. So as a little side experiment, how are Hanover going to do in the French Ligue 1? We'll find out at the end of the episode. So any Hanover fans out there, if you've ever wondered if you could go to another league and win, this is the experiment for you. So at the moment, we haven't holidayed anything. It's just the first season, really. So we're going to go to the end of the season. We're going to see who they bring in, see how they get on in the league, and see if they can conquer Bayern Munich in their first attempt. So I will see you at the end of the season. It is the end of the 2018 season. We're at the 31st of May, the first season of this experiment. And let's have a look how PSG got on in their experiment. So, I don't know what happens in the first season. They just do not get the cup football in the first season, but that will be fixed come season 2. And they were on the same points as Bayern Munich in the league. Oh, they almost won the league. They were on the same points. They lost out on goal difference. Oh, they were so close, and that's their first season in the German First Division. Champions League, which they qualified via winning the French League last season. They got knocked out by Man City, and Spurs won the Champions League. So Spurs fans, you're going to win the Champions League this year, even though you're already out. But you're going to win in this experiment, so it's fine. French Cup they won, and the Trophée des Champions, just like the Community Shield of France, they came runners-up to Monaco. So the first time of asking, they're on the same amount of points. So we'll have a look and see their transfer history. They only brought in one player, and that was Bernard. I'm going to call him Bernard. They brought him in for 12.25 million, rising up to 18 mil. So not the most expensive transfer. He's now with 31 mil. So they only brought him in, and he played 4 games in total, 22 off the bench. So not the best value for money for PSG, but it's a promising sign that the fact that they've almost won the league in their first season. So what we're going to do now, we're going to go forward 2 years in the future. So we're going to be at the end of the 2020 season and see how they got on in 2 seasons in the future. The only way is up, surely. If they've drawn on points in the league, they can't be too far off. So I will see you in 2 years' time where we review the previous 2 seasons. We are now 2 seasons in the future. It's the year 2020, so there's been 3 seasons in total. Let's pull up, if I can spell, Paris Saint Germain and see how they got on. So Unai Emery's still in charge. Neymar is still at the club. We'll have a look at the competitions. So this is the most current season, but we'll go through year by year. Well, we'll go through competition by competition. So if we look at the stages, we'll look at the league tables. That's this current season. But this would have been the last year, so this will be season 2. They came third in the league, so they still haven't conquered Bayern Munich as far as the league goes. They were well off the pace as well. They were a good 20 points or 19 points off the pace. So Bayern Munich still have the dominance in Germany, and they followed that up by another third place in the league, and they were even further away from Bayern Munich. So at this moment in time, they can't even get second place at the moment. I mean, they came second in their first year, which we've seen, and they just get dropped by Dortmund and then Leverkusen. So they're not making it easy for PSG in the German league. So they've only got 3 more years. Can they conquer the German First Division? They are making the Champions League, so it's not as if they're losing Champions League football, but they just cannot get past third place in the league. They've come second once, they've come third twice. So we'll see how they got on in the Champions League. So we'll start in the group stages and work our way forward. So this would have been the season before. There we are. They're in Group G. So they topped the group with Real Madrid, which from the England experiment, they just couldn't get past Real Madrid in the Champions League. So it's nice to see they got one up on them in the German experiment. So they did qualify, so they got to the first knockout round, where they faced AC Milan, and they won on away goals after a solid 0-0 draw away from home. So that's a tidy. So if they drew 0-0 away from home, how did they... Unless that's not a representation of the legs and things. But the game says they won on away goals, so they won on away goals. Oh, I didn't want that. Okay, so we'll go to the quarterfinals, where they had Atletico Madrid, which they beat them 3-1. So they got to the semi-finals that year, where they were knocked out by Barcelona. They were knocked out 4-1, which meant there was an El Clasico final, and Barcelona won it. So they went out to the eventual winners of the Champions League that season. So the most recent season now in the group stage, there we are, Group A right at the top. They, again, top of the group. They drew with Juventus, but I think they went through on either head-to-head or goal difference. It must have been head-to-head because Juventus have got more goal difference. So we look at the first knockout round, where they faced Monaco, so an old domestic rivalry, but they did manage to come on top, and they won on penalties. So went all the way, and they managed to get to the quarterfinals, where they went out to Barcelona again. So whereas with the England experiment it was Real Madrid, it seems to be Barcelona this time round, where they can't get past. So semi-finals, Barcelona knocked out Bayern Munich, and so Man United beat Atletico, and Barcelona won again at Wembley. So Barcelona won back-to-back Champions Leagues in this experiment. So we've got the first time the German Cup. So what we'll do is we'll start in the third round and we'll work our way forward. So this is where PSG would have entered into the German Cup. So they were handed a tricky tie to Dortmund, which they did get past. They did win 1-0. So in the quarterfinals, they beat Augsburg 3-1. Nice comfortable result. Semi-finals, they had a Division 2 team in Heidenheim. I'm sure that's not how you say it, but they won 3-1. So they made the final, and they won the German Cup last season. So in the 2018-19 season, they've won a German Cup. Now, they did win an FA Cup in the English experiment, so they are used to winning domestic trophies. So a nice German Cup victory for PSG last season. Did they follow that up this year? So they were in the third round where they had Freiburg. They won in extra time. They got through to the quarterfinals, where they went out to Leverkusen. So Leverkusen got revenge from last season's cup and knocked them out. Leverkusen got to the semi-finals, as did Red Bull, and Leverkusen won the cup. So they went out to the eventual cup winners. Now the German Super Cup, which they would only have been in this season's German Super Cup, they were runners-up to Bayern Munich. So the league winners beat the cup winners in this particular season. So in 3 seasons, they've only won 1 German Cup. So the league still eludes them. So we're going to do our last time skip for this experiment. We're going to go 3 years in the future to the end of 2023. So another 3 seasons. Can they finally win the league? We'll find out in a moment. I will see you in 3 seasons' time. One thing I did forget to show you is the transfers. It's a good thing I remembered before I rendered the video. So we'll have a look at the transfers for PSG. We'll see what they've made. So obviously in the first year they only spent 12.25 million. So in the second season, obviously signed Mbappe for 160 million. That was a pre-arranged transfer. But they've obviously managed to spend £338 million. So if you take out the 160 for Mbappe, they would have spent 170 million. So they signed Jonas Hector from Cologne, so he is a German. So it's interesting to see the PSG are signing German players. So he's a left back. In the latest season, he got 30 appearances, so he's still at the club. They signed Sebastian Rudy from Bayern Munich for 35.5 million. He looks to be still at the club, but only played 5 games though. So he is a backup at PSG. Very expensive backup, but a backup nonetheless. Antonio Rudiger, they brought him in from Chelsea for 37 million. 12 games played, 4 off the bench. So they just don't seem to be playing many games in their second season. Obviously, you know, they signed him in the first season. It is the second season now. So they might very well have played him in the first year, but not getting much games. So we'll have a look who else they signed. They signed Nir Bitton from Celtic for 9.5 million. Israeli player. Again, only 7 appearances made, but a centre midfielder. I wonder why they signed him from Celtic. Lucas Torreira from Sampdoria for 29 million. 24 games played. He scored 1 goal, but he is a holding midfielder, so that's to be expected. Juan Bernat, so Spanish international. He was a left back, 18 appearances in the latest season. So they are bringing in defensive players on the look. So they haven't brought in any attacking players. I mean, yeah, pretty much they've all been defenders so far, or midfielders. And Giovanni Truppe from FC Utrecht. And was it FC? Yeah, FC Utrecht. So he's on loan to Stuttgart. They've loaned him out really. So he hasn't really played much first team football, but he is on loan. So 1 for the future. And as far as players out, who did they let out last year? It was just loan players they let out. So as far as outs, not many outs to be honest with you. They let Jesse Rodriguez go to Fiorentina. They let Lassana Diarra go back to Al Jazeera. But apart from that, not many outs. So they seem to be holding a lot of defensive players. So the year after, the latest season, another £178 million spent. They brought in Mustafi from Arsenal, so more defensive signings. For how much did they sign him for? 43 million, rising to 64. So another big defender coming in. So they seem to be stockpiling defenders. And here we go. So we've got some attacking talent now coming in. Munir from Barcelona. They must have released him. He's now worth 25 million. And on the transfer list, so only about 14 games played overall. They brought in Geronimo Rulli, a goalkeeper. He was their first choice last season. They brought in Gundogan from Man City, a holding midfielder / centre midfielder. So a lot of Germans coming in from the looks of it. Obviously, I think in Germany you have to have a minimum of 14 registered. But I think you can have like 99 players registered. So you can leave gaps. So I don't think it really affects them too bad. But 31 for Rulli, 44 going up to 63 for Gundogan. Edwin Cardona for Monterrey. So Monterrey, I think, is in Mexico, I believe. Yeah. So they've signed a Colombian from Mexico. He's on the transfer list, an attacking midfielder. Only played about 10 games all season. Yannick Carrasco they've brought in. So he was in China, I believe. Are you in China? Yeah. So they brought him in from China for £54 million. A massive transfer fee. But a winger on the left-hand side, only played 5 games, but 20 off the bench. So for that big of money, they're not really playing many players. And they brought in Andy Sandoval from New York on a free transfer. He is a regen, so he'll obviously building for the future left-back. So they must be seeing something in him in the future. So £178 million spent. And as far as outs go, again, not many. Yuri goes out to Spartak Moscow, a bunch of loans. Lo Celso, I've not heard of him, goes out to Inter. And Kazawa goes to Leicester City. So not many outs either. So they're stockpiling players, are PSG. A lot in their team. So as we mentioned, we're going to go 3 seasons in the future and we'll see how they get on. We have arrived at 2023, so we've gone on 3 years since the last time you were with us. So this will be the 6th year overall. And let's bring up PSG. Let's see how they've got on. Oh, I've seen something very interesting. Oh, Jurgen Klopp's the manager now of PSG. So they've got in a German manager to win them the German league. We'll have a look and see how they've got on. So they've won the league in the latest year, but we'll go season by season just so that we can do it together. So as we last left off, they came in 3rd place. So the 4th season, they came in 2nd place, 2 points off the top. So they still couldn't crack Bayern Munich. The 5th season, they won the league. So finally, after 5 years, PSG won the league by a distance, 10 points from Bayern Munich. So all those signings have finally paid off, and they only lost 3 times all season, and they defended the league the year after. So dual league winners for PSG. They kept out Bayern Munich and Dortmund and Leverkusen, because they've been up there as well. So they've done back-to-back league titles. So I think we can safely say that PSG can win the German league. But we'll have a look at their Champions League history. We'll see how they got on there. So as we did before, we'll start at the group stages and work our way forward. So we'll have a look. So they are PSG right at the bottom. Juventus in their group again, which they managed to get out of their group as winners. First round, they were knocked out by Lyon. So they're the former French team, but a French team knocking them out of the Champions League. So how far did Lyon get? Oh, they were knocked out by Leverkusen. So knocked out by a team in the German system. Semi-finals, Leverkusen got knocked out. So it was a Spurs-Chelsea final. Who won the Champions League? Spurs won the Champions League. I'm sure it's the 2nd time in this experiment they've won it. So Tottenham Hotspur have a very good Champions League future ahead of them. So we'll have a look at the 2nd year. We'll see if PSG managed to improve on the first knockout round. So Group F, in a group with Barcelona, who were their rivals they kept getting knocked out by. So they did get out of the group as top of the group. They got through to the quarterfinals, knocked out Atletico Bilbao. They got a Lyon, so they got revenge on Lyon as they got through to the semi-finals of the Champions League, where they got knocked out by Tottenham. Tottenham are on a Champions League run of anything. Did they win back-to-back Champions Leagues? They did! They beat Barcelona 2-1, and Tottenham are the Champions League for, I'm sure, the 3rd time now in this experiment. So, whilst we move PSG to Germany, Tottenham seem to be running riot, and 3 Champions League victories in the last 6 years at least. So this is the last year, so the latest season. They came 2nd in their group with Atletico Madrid going through, with Sporting and Ludogorets. In the first knockout round, they had Man City, who they got knocked out by, so they didn't make it past the first knockout round. Quarterfinals, Man City went through, Spurs, Atletico Madrid and Juventus. So Spurs again got to a final. They went through with Real Madrid. Well, they knocked out Atletico Madrid. And Man City, did they win another final? No, they got knocked out. So Tottenham had 4 finals in 6 years and won 3 of them. That is absolutely incredible. I know this is a PSG experiment, but that is absolutely incredible from Tottenham. So we'll have a look at the German Cup. So we'll start in the 3rd round like we did before. Go back 2 years or 3 years. So we've got all 3 seasons. So PSG knocked out Leverkusen in the 3rd round. Knocked out Hertha Berlin in the quarterfinals. Got knocked out by Stuttgart in the semi-finals. When Stuttgart did win it. So they did get knocked out by the eventual winners. Season 5. They got Leverkusen, who were a very tricky draw, but they did get through it. They got through to the quarters where they beat Hamburg 2-1. They beat Red Bull in the semi-finals. And they beat Bayern 3-1 in the final. So that's 2 leagues and 2 German Cups so far. So we've only got one more season to check. How did they get on? So they were defending their trophy. They beat Darmstadt 3-0 in the third round. Got past Stuttgart in penalties in the quarterfinals. They beat Red Bull 4-0 in the semi-finals. They got through to the final, where they lost to Bayern 3-2. So they almost defended their trophy. So 2 German Cups over 6 years for PSG to add to their 2 league titles. So we'll have a look at the Super Cup. We'll see how they got on there. So they did get through. I think that would have been... So this would have been... Yeah, this is the first season. They didn't make it in the first year. Didn't make it the second year. But the third year, they lost 3-0 to Bayern Munich. So they didn't quite make the German Super Cup. They didn't really win any, I don't think. If we look at the past winners... Oh, they did win one. They won 1 German Super Cup as well, which was in the second season. But they didn't win it... Oh, yeah, the second season. They didn't win it in any of the other seasons. So that's all the competition. So 2 league titles, 2 German Cups, and a Community Shield, or a German Super Cup. So the answer is, can PSG win in Germany? Yeah, they can. It took them 5 years to win a league, but they did manage to do it. So I'll have a look at the transfer history. Let's see how many millions it took them to win the league. So this would have been season 4. They spent £260 million. So, but we'll have a look and see who they brought in. So Felice DeMarco, an attacking midfielder, no longer at the club. He's gone to Dortmund, so I'm sure we'll see that in the transfer somewhere. They bought Joshua Kimmich from Bayern for 48 million, going up to 71. That's a brilliant signing for them, because he is a brilliant player in real life. So they've got a very versatile player, very similar to Philipp Lahm, but he is a right back and can also play midfield. Brought 2 double signings from Man United. Suso, who used to play for Man United, I know him because he used to play for Liverpool, so he's gone from Liverpool, obviously there are clubs in between, but went to Man United, and now he's signed for PSG on the right wing. Didn't get many games in the 6th season. Victor Lindelof, another Man United player, signed him for centre-back. They signed him for 50 million, rising to 57. Vinicius Jr., 6.75 million. Now, this guy normally turns into one of the best players in the game. He's worth 51 mil, so I'm very surprised that PSG got him on a cheap from Real Madrid. He must have been towards the end of his contract or something, but that could potentially be one of the best signings they ever make. Borja Mayoral, they got him from Real Madrid as well. They signed him for 10.75 million. Played 17 games last season. A perfect player if you want to tutor your youngsters. Lucas Stadler from Borussia Mönchengladbach for 1.4 million. So very much a youngster on loan at Augsburg. So one for the future. And Rodrigo from Bayern Munich for 22.5 million. Still at the club. Very much a backup player. He's only played 7 games over 3 years. And they spent £22 million on him. So season 5. So this would have been the season where they won the league for the first time. Dennis Schon from Hanover for 1.6 mil. A regen. So again, German regen building for the future. Arthur from Chelsea from £87 million. A massive transfer for a player that normally turns out pretty good in Football Manager 2018. Nicolas Soule for 18.75 mil. So a lot of German players seem to be coming in. I'm guessing to try and fill that German quota for their squad. But a rotational centre-back. Thomas Kraft on a free transfer. 34 years old, so more than likely a backup goalkeeper. But he is on his way out to LA Galaxy at the end of the season. Jose Jimenez from Atletico Madrid. So a lot of centre-backs they're signing over this transfer. Over the transfers over the 6 years. But he did get 32 games, so he does seem to be a starter for PSG. And then a double from Red Bull Leipzig, Marcel Sabitzer. He does no longer play for the club. He now plays for Newcastle. So he spent 54 mil only to get rid of him. And then Timo Werner, £68 million. Very much a backup player for PSG. He only started 12 games, 20 off the bench. So not getting mostly first team football from the sounds of it. But like I say, they seem to be stockpiling all the best German players in the world. But with one last season, so this would have been the year that they retained the title. Only 4 players, but they did spend 144 million. Dominic Young on a free transfer from Salzburg. So a youngster from the looks of it. He would have been in the under-19s. Dennis Mann from Inter for £50 million, a right winger. Did play 28 games, 10 off the bench, 20 goals from the wing. Fantastic return. 26 million for Alex Murray, so a goalkeeper who looks to be their first choice. And Ricardo Ossolini from Atletico Madrid. So another right winger who played 20 games and 12 goals in the meantime. So, but massive amounts of money spent. I mean, if we go from the very start, so 12,342, so that's about 360, 178, so that's about 540, 260, so that's about 800, if my maths are right, 289, so that's 1 billion, 1.8, so and 144, so that's about sort of over £1 billion spent on transfers over the last 6 years, but it has brought them returns. So the only thing I want to cover is the outs over the last 3 years. So they did recuperate money, so net spend's not that, well, I would say not that bad, but they did sell some players along the way. So Draxler went, Bernat went, Bernard went back to Shakhtar, Rudiger went, Munier went, Carrasco, and then this year 179 mil, although 99 of that was Marquinhos, to Man City for £99 million. So it's not too bad. It's not just an immediate outlay. Although to be the later season, 15.25 million over 144. So a lot of transfers going in and out. So they had to spend money to win the league. But as we said, as far as the question needs to be asked, can PSG win in Germany? Yes, they can. So the only other thing I want to check is old Hanover. So the reason Hanover was the team chosen to go to France was because they did have the lowest reputation in the league. So they did make their way over to France. So we'll have a quick look at Hanover and see how they got on in the league. So we won't be looking at cups. We will just be looking purely at the league. So Hanover were 8th in their first season. So very much an upper mid-table team. So 8th. 5th for Hanover. So they would have got Europa League football. 9th. 13th, 9th, and 10th. So very much an upper mid-table team for a team in Germany that is the lowest reputation in the league. So that's a very interesting. So very similar to Huddersfield. I'd say Hanover did better than Huddersfield because at least they got a little bit higher in the league. So that kind of shows you the strength of Hanover and the German league in general. So just as a wrap-up for this episode, I know we've already answered the question, but Paris Saint Germain can do the job in Germany. 2 league titles, 2 German cups, and a Community Shield or a German Super Cup. So they can do the business whilst in Germany. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed. So we're going to be bringing up these PSG experiments at least for the next few weeks, to see over different leagues and see how they get on. As I mentioned at the start, we've already done one in England, which we'll leave the link to in the description and in the top over there somewhere. There'll be a playlist or something up there if you want to watch the rest. Or if you're watching in the future, there might be even more. So please tune in for that. And thank you very much for watching, guys. I am really appreciative of how the series have gone down so far. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Thank you very much for watching.